The concert hall should have been empty at midnight. That's what the security guard promised when he handed Aria Chen the keys, pocketing the $50 she couldn't afford to give him. But desperation makes people do reckless things, and Aria was 3 days past desperate. The Steinway Grand sits center stage like a sleeping giant, its polished surface reflecting the ghost light that keeps the theater from complete darkness. Aria's fingers tremble as she approaches, her worn canvas bag slipping from her shoulder to the floor. Inside are her last possessions: sheet music, a change of clothes, and the eviction notice that arrived this morning. She hasn't played a real piano in 6 weeks. Not since the music academy fired her for missing too many classes, which she'd missed because she was working double shifts at the diner, which she'd needed because her mother's hospice care cost more than Aria made in 3 months. The mathematics of poverty are brutally simple. Every choice leads to loss. The bench creaks as she sits. Her hands hover over the keys, shaking so badly she has to press them against her thighs and breathe. Just breathe. The piano doesn't care that she's homeless. It doesn't judge her for the stale coffee smell clinging to her uniform or the fact that she hasn't eaten anything but crackers in 2 days. When her fingers finally touch ivory, something inside her chest cracks open. She plays Chopin, Nocturne in E-flat major. The notes fill the empty hall with the kind of beauty that feels like pain, like memory, like every goodbye she's ever had to say. Her mother used to call her playing liquid moonlight. Used to. Past tense. Because 3 weeks ago, Aria held her mother's hand while cancer took its final victory, and now she's alone in a city that doesn't care if she lives or dies. The music swells. Aria closes her eyes and lets muscle memory guide her through passages she's played 1,000 times. Here, in this moment, she's not broke or homeless or grieving. She's just fingers and keys and the space between notes where emotion lives. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. She doesn't hear the door open. Doesn't notice the figure standing in the shadows of the theater's east entrance. Doesn't realize she has an audience until the final chord fades and a child's voice breaks the silence. Again, Aria's eyes snap open. Her heart slams against her ribs as she searches the darkness. Hello. Who's there? A little boy steps into the ghost light. He can't be more than 7 years old, with dark hair that falls across his forehead and eyes so intense they seem to see straight through her. He's wearing pajamas that probably cost more than Aria's entire wardrobe, silk with some kind of designer embroidery she doesn't recognize. You're not supposed to be here, Aria says, though she's hardly in a position to enforce rules. The boy doesn't respond. He just stares at her with those unsettling eyes, one hand gripping what looks like a small stuffed rabbit that's seen better days. Are you lost? Where are your parents? Nothing. Not a word. But he takes 3 steps closer to the stage, his bare feet silent on the carpeted aisle. Aria's instincts scream that something is wrong. A child this young, alone in a concert hall at midnight, dressed for bed but somehow here instead of home. She should call security. Should definitely call someone. But there's something about the way he's looking at the piano, like it's the only thing in the universe that matters. Do you want me to play something else? She asks softly. The boy nods. Just once. Decisive, Aria turns back to the keys. She chooses something gentler this time. Debussy. Clair de Lune. The music spills out like water, each note a small miracle of sound. And as she plays, she hears the quiet pad of footsteps. When she glances sideways, the boy has climbed the stage stairs and is standing just a few feet away, transfixed. She finishes the piece. The boy's hand reaches toward the piano, trembling, then pulls back. His lips move, but no sound comes out. He tries again, and Aria sees frustration flash across his small face, followed by something that looks like defeat. Can't talk? Aria asks gently. The boy shakes his head. His eyes are suddenly bright with unshed tears. That's okay, Aria says, even though her mind is racing with questions. Music doesn't need words. She's about to ask him to sit beside her, to show him a simple melody, when the concert hall's main doors explode inward with enough force to echo like a gunshot. 3 men pour through the entrance, moving with the kind of coordinated urgency that speaks to training and purpose. They're dressed in dark suits that can't quite hide the bulges of weapons underneath. The one in front is massive, built like a linebacker, with a scar running from his left eye to his jaw. "Luca!" The scarred man's voice carries equal parts relief and terror. "Murda, child, do you have any idea what you've done?" The boy, Luca, doesn't even look at them. His eyes stay fixed on Aria, one hand now gripping the edge of the piano. "Step away from the boy." This command comes from a fourth man who enters behind the others, and Aria's breath catches in her throat because she knows exactly who he is. Everyone in the city knows Matteo De Luca. The newspapers call him a business entrepreneur. The police call him untouchable. The people who actually understand how power works call him the most dangerous man on the East Coast. He controls everything from shipping to construction, legitimate businesses that hide an empire built on things Aria tries not to think about. He's taller than she expected, broader. The photos in the news don't capture the way he moves, like violence contained in expensive fabric. His suit probably costs more than Aria made in a year when she still had a job. His hair is dark, touched with gray at the temples, and his face is carved from the same stone as Roman statues, beautiful and completely merciless. But it's his eyes that paralyze her. Dark, assessing, missing absolutely nothing. "I asked you to step away from my son," Matteo says, and his voice is quiet. Too quiet, the kind of quiet that precedes thunder. Aria's hands lift from the keys like she's been burned. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. He just appeared. And I was playing in. Papa." The word is barely a whisper. So soft Aria almost doesn't hear it. But every man in the theater freezes like they've been struck by lightning. Luca is staring at his father. His mouth is forming the shape again. "Papa!" Matteo De Luca, the man who reportedly once made a rival crime boss disappear for insulting his mother, looks like he's been shot. His face goes completely white. He takes one step forward, then another, moving like a man walking through a dream he's afraid to wake from. "Luca!" His voice cracks on his son's name. "Did you just?" The boy nods. His hand is still gripping the piano, but his eyes are locked on his father's face. "Papa!" he says again, stronger this time. The scarred man makes a sound that might be a sob. The other two guards are staring like they're witnessing a miracle, which, based on their reactions, Aria is starting to think they might be. Matteo drops to his knees in front of his son. This powerful, terrifying man literally falls to the floor, and Aria sees his hands shaking as he reaches for Luca. "Say it again," he whispers. "Please, son. Say it again." "Papa." Luca's voice is still small, still uncertain, but it's there. Real. Unmistakable. Matteo pulls his son into his arms, and Aria has to look away from the raw emotion on his face. This isn't the crime lord from the newspapers. This is just a father holding his child, and the love pouring off him is almost painful to witness. 2 years, Matteo says into Luca's hair. 2 years of silence. Doctors. Specialists. Every treatment money could buy. And you speak now. Here. He lifts his head, and his eyes find Aria. The gratitude she expects to see isn't there. Instead, there's suspicion. Calculation. The kind of look that measures threat level and vulnerability in the same glance. "Who are you?" Aria's mouth goes dry. "Nobody. I'm nobody. I'm just a pianist. I was practicing and your son appeared and I didn't know who he was, I swear." Playing in a locked concert hall at midnight, Matteo's voice has regained its edge. "That's interesting timing for innocent practice. I paid the security guard. I just needed somewhere to play. A real piano. I didn't mean any harm." Matteo stands, Luca held against his chest. The boy's face is buried in his father's neck, but his hand reaches back toward Aria. Toward the piano. "Marco," Matteo says to the scarred man, "find out everything about her. Every detail. Where she lives, where she works, everyone she knows. I want her entire life documented before sunrise." "I really didn't do anything wrong," Aria tries again. "I'll leave right now. I'll never come back." "You made my son speak." Matteo's eyes hold hers with the intensity of a predator who's spotted prey. "After 2 years of specialists and treatments and prayers that led nowhere. You played piano for 10 minutes and accomplished what millions of dollars couldn't." He takes 3 steps closer. Aria wants to back away, but she's trapped between the piano and a man who could end her life with a phone call. "So no," Matteo continues, his voice soft and absolutely final. You won't leave. You won't disappear. Because tomorrow morning, you're coming to my home. You're going to play for my son again. And you're going to help me understand what just happened here. I don't understand what happened either, Aria whispers. I just played music. That's all. Nothing is ever just anything. Matteo shifts Luca higher in his arms. The boy is fighting sleep now, his eyes drooping, but he's still making small sounds. Humming. The melody Aria played. Give Marco your information. Address, phone number, everything. A car will pick you up at 9 tomorrow morning. I don't have a phone, Aria admits. Or an address. Not anymore. Something flickers across Matteo's face. Not sympathy, exactly. More like recognition. Like he's recalculating her threat level based on new data. Bruno, he says to one of the other guards. Take her to the Meridian Hotel. Presidential suite. Put it on my account. That's not necessary, Aria protests. I can find somewhere. That wasn't a request. Matteo's tone makes it clear the conversation is over. You're under my protection now. Which means you go where I tell you, when I tell you. Do we understand each other? Aria nods because what else can she do? She's homeless and broke, and somehow in the middle of something she doesn't understand involving the most powerful criminal in the city. As Matteo carries Luca toward the exit, the boy lifts his head one more time. His eyes find Aria's, and he mouths a single word. Tomorrow. Then they're gone. The concert hall feels impossibly empty. Marco stays behind, watching Aria with the wariness of a man who's been surprised once tonight and doesn't plan to be surprised again. The security guard who let you in, Marco says. What's his name? Aria's stomach drops. Please don't hurt him. He was just trying to make some extra money. I practically begged him to let me practice. I won't hurt him, but he won't work here anymore. Marco pulls out his phone, typing rapidly. The boss doesn't tolerate security breaches. Ever. Because of what you do. The question escapes before Aria can stop it. The illegal things. Marco's laugh is sharp and humorless. You really are nobody, aren't you? Most people in this city know better than to ask the DeLuca family direct questions about our business. I'm sorry. I just don't understand any of this. Advice? Marco tucks his phone away. Don't try to understand. Just do what the boss says. Play your piano, and maybe you'll walk away from this with your life improved. Ask too many questions, cause problems, try to leverage what you've seen here tonight into something stupid. He shrugs. Then you become a problem that needs solving. The threat is delivered casually, like he's commenting on the weather. Aria feels ice water replace the blood in her veins. I won't cause problems, she whispers. I promise. Good. Now collect your things. Bruno's waiting to take you to the hotel. Tomorrow, 9 sharp, someone will pick you up. Dress nice. The boss's home isn't the kind of place where you show up looking like. He gestures at her stained diner uniform and worn sneakers. I don't have nice clothes. Marco sighs like this is another problem on a very long list. Fine. I'll have something sent to your room. Size. Aria tells him. He makes another note on his phone. Within minutes, she's being ushered into a black SUV with tinted windows, her canvas bag clutched to her chest like a lifeline. The Meridian Hotel rises against the night sky like a tower of glass and lights. Aria has walked past it hundreds of times, never imagining she'd step inside. The presidential suite has more square footage than her last 3 apartments combined. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city. Furniture that looks like art. A bathroom with marble everything, and a tub big enough for 3 people. Aria stands in the center of the massive living room and realizes she's shaking. Not from fear, exactly. From the whiplash of her life-changing directions. So fast she can't process what's happening. 6 hours ago, she was homeless. Now she's in a hotel suite that probably costs $5,000 a night. Summoned to the private residence of a Mafia boss tomorrow morning because she accidentally made his mute son speak. She should run. She should pack her bag and disappear into the city and never look back. But when Aria closes her eyes, she sees Luca's face. That mixture of hope and fear and desperate need for connection. She hears a small voice saying, Papa, like the word had been locked inside him for so long that releasing it hurt. Whatever is happening, whatever she stepped into, There's a child at the center of it who needs help. And Aria Chen might be broke and homeless and completely out of her depth, but she's never walked away from someone who needed her. Even if helping him means stepping into the darkness of a world where power and violence hide behind expensive suits and beautiful homes. Even if it means trusting the most dangerous man in the city with secrets she doesn't yet understand. Tomorrow morning, she'll go. She'll play piano for Luca again. And maybe, if she's very careful and very lucky, she'll find a way to help him without getting destroyed in the process. Part 2. The protection. The black Mercedes arrives at the Meridian Hotel at exactly 9 a.m. Aria watches from the suite's window as it pulls to the curb, impossibly sleek against the morning traffic. She's wearing the clothes that appeared at her door an hour ago. A simple cream blouse and fabric so soft it feels like touching clouds, tailored black pants that actually fit her properly for the first time in her life, and leather flats that probably cost more than her last month's rent. A note accompanied the outfit. Modest but appropriate. Don't embarrass the family. M. Aria studies her reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls during the descent. She looks like someone else. Someone who belongs in places like the Meridian Hotel, who gets driven around in luxury cars, who doesn't count pennies before buying bread. The disguise is so convincing she almost believes it herself. Bruno stands beside the Mercedes, his massive frame making the luxury vehicle look smaller. In daylight, his scar is even more prominent, a testament to violence survived. But his eyes are surprisingly kind when he opens the rear door for her. "Morning, Miss Chen. Sleep well." "Better than I have in months," Aria admits, sliding into leather seats that smell like new money. "Thank you for last night. The hotel. The clothes." Bruno closes her door and moves to the driver's seat. "Boss's orders. Besides, Luca spoke because of you. That's worth more than clothes in a hotel room." As they pull into traffic, Aria's curiosity overcomes her caution. "How long has he been mute?" 2 years, 3 months, and 16 days. Bruno's answer is immediate, precise. Like he's been counting. Since his mother died. The information hits Aria like a physical blow. A 7-year-old who stopped speaking after losing his mother. God. No wonder Matteo looked like he'd witnessed a miracle last night. What happened to her? Bruno's hands tighten on the steering wheel. Car accident. At least, that's what the police report said. But in our world, accidents are rarely just accidents. You think someone killed her? I think the boss has enemies who understand that the best way to destroy a man isn't to kill him. It's to take away everything he loves and make him live with the loss. Bruno meets her eyes in the rearview mirror. Luca hasn't spoken since we buried his mother. Hasn't cried, hasn't laughed, hasn't made a sound except breathing. Doctors called it selective mutism triggered by trauma. Said it might be permanent. Aria thinks about the small boy standing in the concert hall, his hand reaching for the piano like it was a lifeline. Music therapy. Tried it. Brought in the best specialists from Europe, Asia, everywhere. Luca wouldn't engage. Wouldn't even look at instruments. Last therapist we hired said he built walls so high that nothing could reach him. Bruno's smile is slight but genuine. Then you played Chopin at midnight and the walls came down. They drive through neighborhoods that progressively get wealthier, leaving behind the cramped streets of Aria's former life for tree-lined avenues where houses hide behind iron gates and manicured hedges. Finally, they turn onto a private road that winds up a hill overlooking the city. The De Luca estate isn't just a house. It's a statement of power. 3 stories of stone and glass, surrounded by gardens that look like they require a full-time staff to maintain. Security cameras track their approach. Guards in suits watch from discreet positions. This is a fortress disguised as a home. Bruno pulls through gates that open automatically, following a circular driveway to the main entrance. "Few rules before we go in," he says, putting the car in park. "Don't ask about the boss's business. Don't wander around without permission. Don't talk to anyone about what you see or hear here. And most importantly, don't hurt Luca, physically or emotionally. Because if you do, there's no place on earth you could hide that the boss wouldn't find you." "I would never hurt a child," Aria says, offended by the implication. "Good. Then we'll get along fine." Bruno opens her door. He's waiting in the music room. The interior of the house is somehow both intimidating and beautiful. Marble floors reflect light from crystal chandeliers. Artwork that probably belongs in museums hangs on walls painted in soft, expensive colors. Every detail speaks to wealth accumulated over generations, power that doesn't need to announce itself because everyone already knows it's there. But there are also signs of a child living here. A small sneaker abandoned near the grand staircase. Drawings hung on a hallway wall in simple frames, protected like they're as valuable as the oil paintings surrounding them. A toy truck parked carefully beside an antique table. Bruno leads her through the main hall to a room at the back of the house. Double doors stand open, revealing a space that makes Aria's breath catch. The music room is cathedral-like in its proportions. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook gardens that stretch toward distant trees. But the centerpiece is the piano. A Bosendorfer Imperial Grand, 9 feet of perfection in polished ebony, sitting in a shaft of morning light like it's been positioned for a photograph. Matteo De Luca stands beside it, one hand resting on the closed lid. He's traded last night's suit for more casual clothes, though casual on him still means perfectly tailored black pants, and a white shirt with sleeves rolled to reveal forearms corded with muscle. His hair is slightly disheveled, like he's been running his hands through it. Miss Chen. His voice is neutral, giving away nothing. Punctual. I appreciate that. Thank you for the clothes. And the hotel. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. He cuts her off smoothly. You're here because you possess something valuable to me. That makes you an asset that needs protecting and maintaining. The clothes and accommodations are simply proper asset management. The clinical description stings more than it should. Aria reminds herself that this man isn't her friend. He's someone who views everything through the lens of power and utility. Where's Luca? She asks. Watching. Matteo gestures toward a doorway, partially hidden behind a bookshelf. He's shy with strangers. Always has been, but especially since his mother died. The fact that he approached you last night was remarkable enough. I'm not going to force interaction before he's ready. Aria looks toward the doorway and sees a small shadow just visible in the darkness beyond. Luca is there, she realizes, listening, deciding whether to trust her again. May I? She gestures toward the piano. Matteo steps aside. That's why you're here. Aria approaches the Bosendorfer like it's something sacred. Because it is. Instruments like this are rare enough that most pianists never get to touch one. The bench adjusts with silent precision. The keys are perfectly regulated, each one responding to the slightest pressure with tonal perfection. She doesn't choose Chopin this time. Instead, she plays something she wrote herself, years ago, when her mother was first diagnosed. It's a simple melody, built around the idea of memory and loss and the small moments of beauty that persist even when everything else falls apart. The music fills the room with gentle insistence. Aria closes her eyes and lets herself disappear into the notes, the way she always has, the way music has been her escape and salvation for as long as she can remember. She doesn't see Luca emerge from his hiding place, doesn't notice him crossing the room with careful steps until she feels a small hand touch her arm. Aria's eyes open. Luca is standing beside the bench, his rabbit clutched in one hand, his dark eyes fixed on her face with that same intense focus from last night. Hi, Aria says softly. Want to sit with me? Luca nods. He climbs onto the bench, settles beside her, and watches her hands with fascination. Aria plays the melody again, slower this time, simple enough that small fingers could learn it. It's called Mama's Song, she tells him. I wrote it for my mother. She died a few weeks ago. Luca's hand finds hers, squeezing. The gesture is so unexpected, so full of understanding, that Aria has to blink back tears. Your mama died too, didn't she? Aria whispers. Luca nods. His eyes are bright with emotion he can't or won't express in words. It's okay to be sad, Aria continues. It's okay to miss her so much it feels like you can't breathe. And it's okay to be angry that she's gone and you're still here without her. Luca's mouth opens. For a moment, Aria thinks he might speak. Instead, he makes a sound, low and broken, that's more pain than language. Then he's crying, silent tears streaming down his face, his small body shaking with grief he's apparently held inside for over 2 years. Aria pulls him into her arms without thinking. He clings to her like she's the only solid thing in a world that's tried to drown him. Over his head, She sees Mateo standing frozen by the window, his face a mask of controlled emotion that's cracking at the edges. "It's all right," Aria murmurs into Luca's hair. "I've got you. You're safe. You can cry. You can be sad. You don't have to be strong all the time." She holds him while he breaks apart, this little boy who lost his mother and locked his voice away with his grief. And as she holds him, she realizes that Mateo is crying too. Silent tears tracking down his face, his hands gripped so tightly against the window frame that his knuckles have gone white. This is a family, Aria understands, that doesn't know how to process loss. They've just buried it under silence and routine, and the pretense that strength means never showing pain. Eventually, Luca sobs quiet to hiccups. He pulls back from Aria's embrace, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. When he looks up at her, there's something different in his expression, like a door that's been locked has finally opened. "Music," he whispers. "Mama loved music." Aria's heart stutters. 2 words, but they're delivered with clarity and purpose, not the uncertain whisper from last night. "What was her favorite song?" Aria asks gently. Luca thinks for a moment. Then he hums a melody. It takes Aria a few bars to recognize it. Brahms' Lullaby. Simple. Classic. The kind of thing mothers have hummed to their children for generations. "I know that one," Aria says. She plays it on the piano, adding gentle harmonies that transform the simple melody into something richer. Luca watches her fingers, then tentatively reaches out to touch a key. A single note, clear and pure. "You want to learn?" Aria asks. Luca nods emphatically. Over the next hour, Aria teaches him the basics. Where to place his hands, how to read the simplest notation. A melody so easy that even small fingers can manage it. And through it all, Luca talks. Not constantly, not in long paragraphs. But words emerge like water from a spring that's been dammed too long. Like this. "That note is pretty. Can we play Mama's song again?" Each sentence makes Mateo's expression shift through emotions Aria can't quite read. Relief, wonder, fear. Like he's witnessing a miracle but can't quite trust it's real. When Luca's attention finally wavers, Aria suggests a break. The boy nods, sliding off the bench to retrieve his rabbit from where it fell during his crying. He carries it to his father, who immediately drops to one knee to receive him. "Papa," Luca says clearly. "She plays like Mama did. Before. When I was little." Mateo's arms close around his son with desperate gentleness. "I remember, figlio mio. Your mother played beautifully. I want to learn. Like Aria. Every day. We'll see what we can arrange," Mateo says, but his eyes are already on Aria, calculating, planning. Bruno appears in the doorway. "Boss, Dr. Reeves is here for Luca's appointment." Mateo's expression hardens, slightly. "Already? I thought we canceled this week's session." He insisted, said it was important, given the reports of Luca's vocal breakthrough. Aria watches confusion flicker across Mateo's face. "I haven't told anyone yet." "How would he?" He stops. Looks at Bruno. "Marco must have mentioned it in his report last night." Bruno says carefully, "You know how the doc keeps close tabs on Luca's progress." Something in the exchange makes Aria's instincts prickle. There's a subtext she's not understanding, a current of tension beneath polite words. Dr. Reeves enters the music room like he owns it. He's in his 50s, distinguished in the way expensive grooming and confident posture create, with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses that make him look professorial. But his eyes are cold when they sweep over the scene. Luca with his father, Aria at the piano. "Mr. DeLuca." His smile doesn't reach those cold eyes. "I understand there's been a significant development with Luca's condition." "He's speaking again," Mateo says, his tone neutral but his body language protective. He shifts slightly, putting himself between the doctor and his son. "Fascinating." Dr. Reeves pulls out a tablet, already typing notes. "And when did this begin?" "Last night." "After what trigger?" Mateo hesitates. Aria can see him weighing how much to reveal. "Music." He responded to piano music. Dr. Reeves' gaze shifts to Aria, and she feels examined like a specimen under a microscope. "And you are?" "Aria Chen. I'm a pianist." "I see. And you've been working with Luca how long?" "Since last night," Aria admits. We just met. Remarkable. But the words sound skeptical. Dr. Reeves approaches Luca, who immediately presses closer to his father. Luca, can you speak for me? Can you tell me how you're feeling today? Luca's mouth closes into a thin line. He shakes his head. It's all right, Dr. Reeves says in that overly soothing voice some adults use with children. You don't have to be scared. I'm here to help you. But Luca's entire body has gone rigid. His hands grip Matteo's shirt like he's preparing for an attack. That's enough, Matteo says quietly. You're making him uncomfortable. With respect, Mr. DeLuca, discomfort is sometimes necessary for therapeutic progress. If Luca is capable of speech but choosing selective engagement, we need to understand the psychology behind. I said that's enough. Matteo's voice drops to that dangerous, quiet aria heard last night. My son spoke for the first time in over 2 years. I'm not going to let you terrorize him into silence again because you're curious about the mechanism. Dr. Reeves straightens, his professional mask slipping to reveal irritation. I've been treating Luca since the incident. I think I understand his needs better than a pianist you hired yesterday. The pianist you're dismissing accomplished more in 1 hour than you have in 2 years, Matteo counters. So perhaps your understanding of my son's needs isn't as comprehensive as you believe. The tension in the room is thick enough to choke on. Bruno has moved closer, his hand resting casually near his jacket in a way that suggests weapons within easy reach. Dr. Reeves seems to realize he's overstepped because his expression smooths into professional contrition. Of course. Forgive me. I'm simply concerned about Luca's welfare. Sudden changes in trauma-induced selective mutism can be fragile. Without proper therapeutic support, he could regress even further than before. Then I suppose it's fortunate, Matteo says, each word precisely placed, that Miss Chen will be providing that support going forward. Aria's head snaps toward him. What? You're hired. Full-time. Whatever salary you need, whatever schedule works best for Luca's development. You'll stay in the guest house on the property, so you're available when needed. Mr. DeLuca, I don't think. I'm not asking what you think, Dr. Reeves. I'm telling you how this is going to work. Matteo's attention shifts to Aria. Unless you have objections, Aria should object. Should refuse to be pulled deeper into this world of guards and tension and a mafia boss who treats people like chess pieces. But when she looks at Luca, still pressed against his father, she sees a child who needs help, who responded to her in a way he hasn't responded to anyone else in 2 years. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. No objections, Aria hears herself say, but I'll need access to proper teaching materials, and Luca should have regular practice time, not just when it's convenient. Done. Bruno will help you get settled in the guest house today. We'll discuss schedule and compensation this evening. Matteo looks at Dr. Reeves. You're dismissed. I'll call if we need your services again. Dr. Reeves' jaw tightens. Mr. DeLuca, I strongly advise against terminating Luca's therapeutic relationship during such a delicate. You're dismissed. The words are soft as silk and sharp as broken glass. Dr. Reeves gathers his tablet and exits with the stiff dignity of someone who knows they've been outmaneuvered but can't quite figure out how. The moment the door closes behind him, Luca lets out a breath like he's been holding it the entire time. Don't like him, Luca whispers to his father. Never did. Matteo's expression softens. Why didn't you tell me? Luca shrugs. Couldn't. No words. The simple explanation hits everyone in the room with devastating force. How long has this child been trapped with adults he couldn't communicate with, enduring treatment he hated, unable to explain his feelings? You have words now, Aria says gently. So if something or someone makes you uncomfortable, you can tell us. Promise. Luca nods seriously. Promise. Good. Aria stands from the piano bench, her legs slightly unsteady. Everything has changed in the last 12 hours. Yesterday, she was homeless and hopeless. Now she's somehow employed by the most dangerous man in the city, living on his property, responsible for the psychological well-being of his traumatized son. Matteo catches her expression. Bruno, take Luca to the garden. Let him play while I speak with Miss Chen privately. Once they're alone, the music room feels impossibly large. Aria stands by the piano, hyper-aware of Matteo's presence as he approaches. He moves like a predator, all controlled grace and barely contained power. "I need to understand something," he says. "What's your angle?" "My angle? Everyone wants something. Money, power, connection to my organization, leverage for blackmail. So what do you want?" Aria laughs, the sound sharp and slightly hysterical. 24 hours ago, I was homeless. I was sleeping in parks and practicing on a piano I had to bribe a security guard to access. I'm not playing some elaborate game. I'm just trying to survive. "Homeless," Matteo repeats, his eyes narrowing. "Why?" "Because my mother had cancer. Because hospice care costs more than most people make in a year. Because I missed too much work in classes taking care of her, and eventually I had nothing left. No job. No scholarship. No apartment. No family." The words pour out faster than Aria can stop them. "So no, Mr. DeLuca, I don't have an angle. I don't have a plan. I have a gift for music and apparently some kind of connection with your son that I don't understand. That's all." Matteo studies her for a long moment. "Your mother? When did she die?" 3 weeks ago. "And you've been on the streets since then?" "Not the streets exactly. Just wherever I could find shelter." Something shifts in Matteo's expression. Not quite sympathy, but recognition maybe. Like he's recalculating her value based on new information. "You play piano at a professional level. Where did you train?" "Whitmore Academy. I had a full scholarship before I lost it." Matteo pulls out his phone, types rapidly. Within seconds, he's reading something that makes his eyebrows rise slightly. "According to this, you were one of their top students. Competition winner at age 16. Performed with the City Symphony at 18. Your instructors called you a generational talent." "That was before," Aria says quietly. "Before my mother got sick. Before real life got in the way of talent." Talent doesn't disappear because circumstances change. Matteo pockets his phone. "Here's what's going to happen. You'll work with Luca every day. Morning sessions focused on music therapy and piano instruction. Afternoons free for your own practice and composition. Evenings with the family, when Luca wants company. Salary is $5,000 a week, plus room and board." Aria's knees nearly give out. $5,000 a week is more than she made in 3 months at her last job. That's too much. That's what you're worth. And frankly, it's less than I pay most people who have access to my son in my home." Matteo's voice hardens slightly. "Which brings me to the rules. You don't talk about what you see or hear here. You don't ask questions about my business. You don't leave the property without permission and security escort. You don't bring anyone here without advance approval. And most importantly, you protect Luca. His physical safety, his emotional well-being, his privacy. He comes first. Always. Understand?" "Yes." "Good. Bruno will show you the guest house and help you get settled. We'll have dinner together tonight. 6 o'clock. Luca enjoys the routine of family meals." Aria nods, still processing the surreal turn her life has taken. As she moves toward the door, Matteo's voice stops her. "Miss Chen." She turns back. "Thank you," he says, and for a moment, the dangerous Mafia boss disappears completely, leaving just a father who's been given his son's voice back. "For whatever you did last night, for reaching him when no one else could, I don't have words for what that means." Aria thinks about Luca's small hand in hers, his tears, his brave attempts at speech. He's a special kid. You're lucky to have him. "I know." Matteo's expression is unreadable. "Which is why I'll do anything to protect him. Remember that." It's not quite a threat, but it's not quite reassurance either. It's simply the truth. Matteo DeLuca would burn the world down for his son, and Aria has just become part of the circle he's willing to protect or destroy depending on how she handles what comes next. The guest house is beautiful, a smaller version of the main house with 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, and a living room that overlooks the gardens. Bruno helps her carry in the few belongings she owns, which look pathetic in the expensive space. Boss had the housekeeper stock the kitchen, Bruno says, opening cabinets to reveal more food than Aria has seen in one place in months. "If you need anything else, there's a phone by the bed. Direct line to the main house." Bruno, Aria asks carefully, what happened to Luca's mother? Really? Bruno's expression closes like a door slamming shut. Car accident. That's the official story. But not the truth. The truth is complicated and dangerous, and not something you need to know to do your job. He moves toward the door, then pauses. Advice? Don't go digging into things that don't concern you. The boss keeps secrets for good reasons. Respect that. After he leaves, Aria explores her new temporary home. In the bedroom closet, she finds an entire wardrobe in her size. Simple, elegant pieces that probably cost more than her entire previous wardrobe combined. On the nightstand is an envelope with her name on it. Inside are $5,000 in cash and a note, first week's salary. Welcome to the family. MD. Aria sits on the edge of the bed, the money in her hands, and tries to process everything that's happened. Yesterday, she had nothing. Today, she has everything. A job, a home, financial security. But she's also trapped in a world she doesn't understand, employed by a man who rules through violence, responsible for a child who carries trauma she can barely comprehend. Through the window, she can see Luca playing in the garden with Bruno watching nearby. The boy is talking to his stuffed rabbit, words flowing more easily now, like a stream that's been dammed, finally breaking free. Aria understands she's been given a gift. The chance to help a child heal. The opportunity to use her music for something meaningful instead of just surviving. But gifts from men like Matteo De Luca always come with prices, and Aria has a terrible feeling she hasn't even begun to understand what this one will cost. Her phone, a new one that appeared with the clothes this morning, buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Dinner at 6. Don't be late. Luca's excited to see you. 4 hours until she sits down to dinner with a Mafia family. 4 hours to figure out how to navigate a world where wrong steps could be fatal. 4 hours to decide if helping Luca is worth whatever darkness she's about to step into. Aria looks at the piano sheet music scattered on her bed, at the money that represents more security than she's had in years, at the view of gardens maintained by people who probably know exactly what Matteo De Luca does to maintain his power. She thinks about her mother's final words, "Use your gift, mihija. Music can heal things medicine can't touch." Maybe that's what this is. Maybe her mother's death, her homelessness, even breaking into that concert hall at midnight, maybe it all led here. To a little boy who needed someone to hear the music still living inside him. To a father desperate enough to welcome a stranger into his world if it meant saving his son. Or maybe Aria is just telling herself stories to justify stepping deeper into danger. Either way, at 6 o'clock, she'll put on one of her new dresses, walk to the main house, and sit down to dinner with the De Luca family. And whatever happens next, there's no going back to who she was before. The music room calls to her. Aria finds herself walking back to the main house, the Bosendorfer waiting like an old friend. She sits at the bench and begins to play. Not Chopin or Debussy this time. Something new. A melody forming in her mind about lost children and dangerous men and the strange alchemy that happens when broken things find each other in the dark. She doesn't hear Matteo enter the room. Doesn't realize he's there until the song ends, and she opens her eyes to find him standing by the window, watching her with an expression she can't decipher. "That was beautiful," he says quietly. "Original. Just something I'm working on. It sounds like grief." Matteo moves closer. And hope. Both at once. Aria nods. That's what life feels like right now. They stand in silence for a moment, this homeless pianist and the Mafia boss, connected by a 7-year-old boy who speaks through music when words fail him. "My wife," Matteo says suddenly, "loved music the way you do. Like it was the only truth in a world full of lies. She used to play for Luca every night before bed. After she died, he wouldn't go near the piano, wouldn't even walk into this room. But he came here with me this morning." "Yes." Matteo's voice is rough with emotion, which means you've given me back more than his voice. You've given me back pieces of her. The way she loved him. The way music connected them. I didn't think I'd ever see that again. Aria understands then that she's not just teaching Luca to play piano. She's helping Matteo remember his wife, bringing back a ghost through melody and memory. It's a beautiful responsibility and a terrifying one. "I'll take good care of him," she promises. Both of them. The boy he is now and the boy he was with his mother. Mateo's eyes meet hers, and for the first time, Aria sees past the dangerous criminal to the grieving husband and desperate father underneath. "I believe you will," he says, "which is why I'm trusting you with the most precious thing in my world." It's in this moment, standing in afternoon light with music still hanging in the air between them, that Aria realizes she's already in too deep to ever escape. And the terrifying part is that she's not sure she wants to. Part 3. The reckoning. 3 weeks pass like a fever dream. Aria establishes a rhythm with Luca that feels almost normal. Morning sessions at the piano where his small fingers grow more confident with each passing day. Afternoons in the garden where he talks more freely, his vocabulary expanding like flowers opening to sunlight. Evenings with family dinners where Mateo watches his son with wonder that never quite fades. But normal is an illusion in the DeLuca household. Aria learns to recognize the signs of Mateo's other life bleeding into their bubble of music and healing. Phone calls that make his expression harden to stone. Meetings behind closed doors where raised voices carry through walls built to contain secrets. Bruno and the other guards moving with heightened alertness when threats manifest from the shadows of Mateo's empire. She learns not to ask questions, not to comment when Mateo disappears for entire days and returns with bruised knuckles and eyes that have seen things she doesn't want to imagine. Not to wonder about the men who visit late at night, their conversations conducted in Italian too rapid for her limited understanding. Luca is speaking in full sentences now, his confidence growing alongside his piano skills. He's composing simple melodies, telling stories through music the way his mother apparently did. Aria records these compositions, preserving them like the precious gifts they are. "You're good for him," Mateo says one evening after Luca has gone to bed. They're in the music room, Aria practicing while Mateo works through paperwork on the antique desk near the window. He's becoming himself again, the boy he was before we lost her. "He was always himself," Aria says, her fingers moving through a complicated passage. "Just buried under grief. All I did was help him find the way back to the surface." "Don't diminish what you've done." Mateo sets down his pen. "Dr. Reeves spent 2 years trying to reach him and accomplished nothing. You've given me my son back in 3 weeks." The mention of Dr. Reeves makes Aria's hands pause on the keys. The psychologist hasn't returned since being dismissed, but Aria catches Mateo staring at his phone sometimes with an expression that suggests unfinished business. "Do you trust him?" Aria asks. "Dr. Reeves, I mean." Mateo's silence is answer enough. Finally, he says, "I trusted him because he came highly recommended. Because he was supposed to be the best trauma specialist on the East Coast. Because I was desperate and he offered hope. But trust in my world is complicated. People are loyal until they're not. They're honest until someone offers them enough money or applies enough pressure. Dr. Reeves had access to my son for 2 years. If he wanted to gather intelligence, establish leverage, create vulnerabilities." Mateo trails off, his jaw tightening. "I've had people investigating his background. So far, everything checks out. But something about his reaction when you broke through to Luca felt wrong." Aria thinks about the cold calculation in Dr. Reeves' eyes. The way he'd insisted on understanding the mechanism of Luca's breakthrough. Maybe he was just professionally curious. Maybe. Mateo doesn't sound convinced. Or maybe he's been keeping Luca silent deliberately, making sure my son stayed broken, so I'd remain dependent on treatments that never worked. The implication is horrifying. Why would anyone do that? Control. Information. Access to my home and routines. Take your pick. Mateo stands, moving to the window that overlooks the gardens, now dark with night. The problem with power is that everyone wants a piece of it, and the best way to control powerful men is through the things they love. He turns to look at Aria, and there's something in his expression that makes her breath catch, which is why I need you to be careful. Very careful. You've become important to Luca, which makes you important to me, which makes you a target. A target for what? For anyone who wants to hurt me. Mateo's voice is matter-of-fact, like he's discussing the weather instead of potential violence against her. My enemies will have noticed you by now. The new woman living on my property, spending hours alone with my son, joining family dinners. They'll be asking questions, making assumptions, looking for ways to exploit the connection. Fear crawls up Aria's spine. Should I leave? If being here puts Luca in danger, leaving would put you in more danger. Matteo cuts her off sharply. Here, you have protection. Security. People who would die before letting harm come to someone under my roof. Out there, you'd be vulnerable. Alone. Easy prey. The cage he's describing is gilded but still a cage. Aria can hear the unspoken message. She belongs to the De Luca family now, whether she wants to or not. Her freedom was the price of saving Luca, and she hadn't even realized she was negotiating. I won't let anything happen to you, Matteo continues, moving closer. You have my word, but you need to follow the rules. Don't leave the property without Bruno or one of the other guards. Don't trust anyone you haven't known for years. Don't share information about Luca or our routines. And if anything feels wrong, even slightly off, you tell me immediately. Okay, Aria whispers, because what else can she say? Matteo reaches out like he might touch her face, then catches himself. His hand drops back to his side. You've given me back my son's voice. I won't let anyone take you from us. From him. Understand? Aria nods, hyper-aware of how close Matteo is standing. How the space between them feels charged with something she doesn't want to name. He's her employer. A criminal. Someone who operates in a world of violence she can't comprehend. But he's also a father who reads bedtime stories, a man who cries when his son speaks, someone who looks at her sometimes like she's the answer to prayers he didn't know he was praying. The moment breaks when Matteo's phone buzzes. He checks it, and his entire demeanor shifts. The softness disappears behind the armor of control he wears like a second skin. I have to handle something, he says, his voice flat. Stay in the main house tonight, not the guest house. Bruno will set you up in one of the spare rooms near Luca's wing. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. But his hand moves to the gun holstered beneath his jacket, checking it with practiced efficiency. Just a business matter that requires attention. He's gone before Aria can ask more questions, leaving her alone in the music room with the echo of his warning still hanging in the air. Bruno appears within minutes, his expression grim. Come on, Miss Chen. Boss wants you secured for the night. Secured. There's been a development. Probably nothing. But until we know for sure, you and Luca are under heightened protection. They move through the house quickly. Bruno stations 2 guards outside Luca's room, then escorts Aria to a bedroom 3 doors down. It's beautiful like everything else in the house, but Aria barely notices the luxury. She's too focused on the men with weapons taking positions throughout the hallway. What kind of development? She asks Bruno. He hesitates, then seems to decide she deserves some truth. Dr. Rees was spotted meeting with Vincent Castellano. He's the head of the Castellano family, one of the boss's primary rivals. The name means nothing to Aria, but Bruno's tone makes it clear this is bad news. You think Dr. Rees has been spying? I think people don't meet with the Castellanos unless they're conducting business that would interest our enemies. And the only valuable information Reeves has is about this household. About Luca. Bruno's jaw tightens. The boss is handling it. You just stay here, keep your door locked, and don't open it for anyone except me or Matteo. Aria doesn't sleep that night. She lies awake listening to the house settling around her, to footsteps in the hallway, to the distant sound of cars coming and going. Around 3 a.m., she hears Matteo return. His footsteps pause outside her door for a long moment before continuing to his own room. Morning brings Luca bouncing into her room, completely unaware of the tension from the night before. Aria, Papa says we can have breakfast in the garden today. Can we play the song I wrote? The one about butterflies? Aria forces a smile. Of course, sweetheart. Let me get dressed and we'll go together. Breakfast is tense despite Luca's cheerful chatter. Matteo looks exhausted, dark circles under his eyes and tension in his shoulders that suggests violence recently committed. He catches Aria's questioning glance and gives a slight shake of his head. Not now. Not in front of Luca. Later, while Luca is napping, Matteo finds Aria in the music room. He closes the doors carefully before speaking. Dr. Reeves won't be a problem anymore. The finality in his voice makes Aria's stomach turn. What did you do? What was necessary? Matteo's expression is hard, offering no apology. He was selling information to the Castellanos. Everything about our security, Luca's routines, your presence here. He'd been doing it for months, maybe the entire time he was treating Luca. Oh my God! The Castellanos were building a profile, learning our vulnerabilities, planning something. Mateo's hands curl into fists. Reeves knew that Luca's mutism kept me distracted, vulnerable. He deliberately sabotaged every treatment to ensure my son stayed broken. To keep me weak. Aria feels sick. And you're sure? You have proof. I had a very detailed conversation with Dr. Reeves last night. By the end, he was extremely forthcoming about his activities. Mateo's tone suggests methods Aria doesn't want to imagine. The Castellanos paid him $200,000 over 2 years. In exchange, he provided intelligence they could use when the time was right. When was the time going to be right? Mateo's silence is deafening. Finally, he says, they were planning to kidnap Luca, use him to force me out of territories they want to control. Reeves was supposed to provide the security details that would make it possible. The room spins. Aria grips the piano bench to steady herself. When? This week. Maybe tomorrow. Mateo's voice is cold with barely controlled rage. If you hadn't broken through to Luca, if he hadn't started speaking, Reeves would still be here. Still have access. Still be gathering final intelligence for an operation that would have destroyed everything. So I accidentally saved him? You saved all of us. Mateo moves closer, and there's something in his eyes that Aria has never seen before. Not just gratitude, something deeper, more dangerous. Without meaning to, without even knowing the stakes, you disrupted a 2-year operation and exposed a traitor I trusted with my son's life. What about the Castellanos? Aria asks. If they were planning to kidnap Luca, they're not just going to give up because Dr. Reeves is gone. No, Mateo agrees. Which is why I'm accelerating plans I've had in development for months. The Castellanos have been a problem for too long. It's time to resolve it permanently. The way he says resolve makes Aria's blood run cold. What does that mean? It means war, Miss Chen. The kind that ends with one family standing and the other erased from existence. Mateo's expression is terrifying in its calm certainty. I've been patient, tried negotiation, offered compromises, but they threaten my son. And that's a line no one crosses and survives. Aria should be horrified, should condemn the violence he's casually planning. But all she can think about is Luca's small hand in hers, his bright laughter when he plays the butterfly song, the trust in his eyes when he calls her name. The idea of anyone trying to hurt him fills her with rage she didn't know she was capable of feeling. How can I help? The words escape before she can stop them. Mateo's expression shifts to something almost like respect. You can keep doing exactly what you've been doing. Keep Luca happy. Keep him speaking. Let him have normalcy while I handle the darkness. He reaches out, and this time he does touch her face, his palm warm against her cheek. You're the light in his life right now. Don't let my world dim that. The tenderness in the gesture contrasts sharply with the violence in his words. Aria realizes she's crying without knowing when the tears started. I'm scared, she admits. For Luca. For you. For all of this. Good. Fear keeps you alert. Keeps you careful. Mateo's thumb brushes away a tear. But don't let it paralyze you. We're going to be fine. I've survived worse threats than the Castellanos, and I had less motivation then. Now I have Luca speaking again. I have hope, and I have you making sure my son remembers what joy feels like. Mateo, whatever she was going to say is lost when his phone rings. He checks it, and his entire body goes rigid. Fuck! What? They're here. The Castellanos. At the front gate. Mateo is already moving, pulling a gun from his desk drawer. Bruno! The head of security appears instantly, his own weapon drawn. Boss! Lock down the house. Get Aria and Luca to the safe room. Nobody gets in or out until I give the all-clear. How many? Security says 6 cars. Maybe 20 men. Mateo's voice is ice-cold calculation. They're making a statement. Stupid of them to come here, but it tells me they're desperate. Or they have inside information about our defenses, Bruno says grimly. Information Reeves might have provided before you. Talk to him. Mateo curses. Get them secured. Now. Bruno grabs Aria's arm, pulling her toward the door. Come on. We need to get Luca and move to the safe room. What about Matteo? The boss can handle himself. Your job is keeping his son safe. They run through the house, collecting a confused Luca from his room. The boy senses the tension immediately, his small hand gripping areas with painful intensity. What's happening? He asks, his voice small and scared in a way that breaks Aria's heart. Just a drill, sweetheart. Aria lies, trying to keep her voice steady. Your papa wants to make sure we know how to stay safe. The safe room is hidden behind a false wall in the library. Bruno's palm on a concealed scanner activates the mechanism, and the wall slides open to reveal a reinforced space with monitors, supplies, and communications equipment. Inside, Bruno orders. Don't come out until Matteo, or I give the all-clear personally. Voice confirmation. You understand? Aria nods, pulling Luca inside. The wall begins to close, and, through the narrowing gap, she sees Bruno take position with his weapon drawn. Then they're sealed in silence, broken only by Luca's frightened breathing. The monitors show different angles of the estate. Aria watches as the front gate explodes inward, the reinforced steel no match for whatever explosive the Castellanos used. Black SUVs pour through like ants from a disturbed nest. Luca presses against her side. I'm scared. Me too, baby. But your papa is going to keep us safe. Aria hopes she's not lying. She's never felt more helpless, trapped in this reinforced box while violence unfolds outside. The monitors show Matteo's men taking defensive positions. The attackers spread out with military precision, suggesting training and planning. This isn't a simple intimidation tactic. This is a coordinated assault designed to overwhelm the estate's defenses. Gunfire erupts. The monitors show muzzle flashes, men falling, chaos spreading through the grounds Aria has walked peacefully just hours before. She pulls Luca's face against her chest, so he can't see the carnage playing out on the screens. Sing to me, Luca whispers. Like Mama used to. Aria's voice shakes as she begins the lullaby, the same Brahms melody Luca had hummed weeks ago. Her eyes stay fixed on the monitors, searching for Matteo among the fighting. She finds him near the main house, moving with lethal efficiency. He's not hiding behind cover like his guards. He's advancing, his weapon firing with precision that drops attackers with each shot. This is Matteo De Luca, the Mafia boss, the man who built an empire on violence, and watching him is terrifying and mesmerizing in equal measure. The Castellanos seem unprepared for the level of resistance they're facing. Aria realizes that Dr. Reeves' information must have been outdated or incomplete. The security measures Matteo has in place are far more extensive than whatever intelligence was sold. But numbers have their own advantage. For every attacker that falls, 2 more seem to appear. Matteo's men are well-trained and well-positioned, but they're outnumbered 3-1. Then Aria sees him, Vincent Castellano himself, based on the way the other attackers defer to him. He's moving toward a side entrance, 3 men flanking him. They're heading for the library wing, heading toward the safe room. No, Aria breathes. No. How could they know? Dr. Reeves. He must have told them about the safe room, given them the layout. Now they're coming, and Aria and Luca are trapped. She looks around the safe room desperately. There's no other exit, no weapons beyond what Bruno might have left. The monitors show Castellano's team getting closer, moving with the confidence of people who know exactly where they're going. The communication panel on the wall lights up. Matteo's voice crackles through. Aria, can you hear me? She lunges for the panel. Yes. Matteo, they're coming. Castellano is heading toward the library. I know. Listen to me very carefully. In the cabinet marked emergency, there's a weapon. A Glock 19. You know how to use a gun? No. You're about to learn. The cabinet code is Luca's birthday. 6 digits. Aria runs to the cabinet, her hands shaking so badly she can barely input the code. It takes 3 tries before it opens, revealing the weapon Matteo described along with extra magazines. I have it, she says, her voice breaking. But I don't know what to do. Safety is on the side. Flip it off before firing. Point and squeeze the trigger. The recoil will surprise you, but keep firing until the threat is down. You understand? Matteo, I can't. You can and you will. His voice is hard with command. Because they're coming for my son, and you're the only thing standing between them and Luca. So you're going to be brave, and you're going to protect him, because I'm 10 minutes away from getting to you, and that's 9 minutes too long. Aria looks at Luca, who's watching her with wide, terrified eyes. This innocent child who's already lost his mother, who's finally starting to heal, who trusts her completely. Okay, she says, surprised by how steady her voice sounds. I'll protect him. Good girl. I'm coming. Just hold on. The connection cuts. Aria checks the weapon like Matteo instructed, finding the safety and flipping it off. The gun is heavier than she expected, cold and deadly in her hands. Luca, she says gently, I need you to hide in the corner behind those supply boxes. Don't make a sound. Don't come out until I tell you. Understand? Are the bad men coming? Maybe, but I won't let them hurt you. I promise. Luca nods, his face so serious it breaks her heart. He crawls behind the boxes, making himself as small as possible. Aria positions herself in front of him, the gun raised the way she's seen in movies, praying she won't have to use it. The monitors show Castellano and his men reaching the library. They're examining the walls, searching for the hidden mechanism. One of them pulls out what looks like a tablet, consulting it. Dr. Reeves' intelligence. They know where to look. Aria's finger rests on the trigger. Her hands have stopped shaking. There's a clarity that comes with absolute necessity. She doesn't have to be brave. She just has to be willing to pull the trigger to protect the child behind her. The wall mechanism begins to activate. Someone on the outside has found the override. The false wall slides open slowly, revealing 4 armed men with Vincent Castellano in the center. He's younger than Aria expected, maybe 40, with slicked-back hair and a smile that makes her skin crawl. His eyes lock on her, then drop to the gun in her hands. Well, he says, his voice carrying amusement. This is unexpected. The pianist is armed. How quaint. Leave, Aria says, and she's proud that her voice doesn't shake. You're not getting to Luca. That's sweet. Really. But we both know you're not going to shoot me. Castellano takes a step forward. You're a music teacher, not a killer. You don't have it in you. He's right. Aria knows he's right. She's never hurt anyone in her life. The idea of pulling this trigger, of ending a human life, makes her want to vomit. But then Luca makes a small sound of fear behind her, and something fundamental shifts in Aria's chest. Maybe she's not a killer. Maybe she doesn't have it in her. But she has love for this child who calls her name when he has nightmares, who plays the song she teaches him. With such joy, who's finally starting to heal from trauma that nearly destroyed him. And love, Aria realizes, can make you capable of things you never imagined. Last warning, she says. Leave now or I start shooting. Castellano laughs. You're not going to. Aria pulls the trigger. The recoil is shocking, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Her shot goes wide, missing Castellano but hitting the man to his right in the shoulder. He drops with a scream, and suddenly the situation transforms from standoff to active combat. Castellano's other men raise their weapons. Aria fires again, and again, not aiming carefully, just pulling the trigger over and over until one of them falls. The confined space works in her favor. They can't spread out, can't use their superior numbers effectively. But Aria's magazine empties after 12 shots. The slide locks back. She has maybe 3 seconds before they realize she's out of ammunition. Then Matteo is there. He appears in the doorway, behind Castellano's men like vengeance personified, his weapon firing with surgical precision. 2 men drop before they can turn around. Castellano spins, raising his own gun, but Matteo is faster. The shot takes Castellano in the chest, center mass. The rival boss staggers backward, disbelief written across his face. He tries to speak, to raise his weapon one more time, but Matteo fires again, and again, until Castellano collapses in a spreading pool of blood. The last standing attacker tries to run. Matteo's bullet catches him in the back. He falls across the threshold between library and safe room, twitching once before going still. Silence descends like a curtain. The only sound is Aria's ragged breathing and the ringing in her ears from the gunfire. Matteo's eyes find hers. Are you hurt? Aria shakes her head, unable to speak. The gun drops from her nerveless fingers, clattering against the floor. Luca! I'm okay, Papa. Luca emerges from behind the boxes, his face pale but determined. Aria protected me. Like you said she would. Mateo crosses the room in 3 strides, crushing his son in a fierce embrace. Over Luca's head, his eyes meet Aria's, and what she sees there makes her breath catch. Gratitude, pride, and something deeper that she's too shocked to process. You shot them, Mateo says, and there's wonder in his voice. You actually pulled the trigger. They were going to hurt him. Aria's voice sounds far away to her own ears. I couldn't let that happen. Bruno appears in the doorway, surveying the carnage with professional assessment. Castellano's down. Most of his men are dead or captured. The rest scattered. We won, boss. Sweep the property, Mateo orders. Make sure we didn't miss anyone. Then start cleanup. I want this mess invisible by morning. On it. Bruno's eyes linger on Aria for a moment. She did good, boss. Real good. After Bruno leaves, Mateo finally releases Luca. Son, I need you to be very brave. Can you go with Bruno? Let him take you somewhere safe while I make sure everything is secure. But Aria, we'll come find you in a few minutes. I promise. I just need to talk to her first. Luca nods reluctantly. He hugs Aria's waist, his small body trembling. Thank you for protecting me, he whispers. You're the bravest person I know. Then he's gone, led away by guards who materialize to escort him. Aria and Mateo are left alone in the safe room, surrounded by bodies and the overwhelming smell of gunpowder and blood. I killed someone, Aria says, her voice hollow. I shot that man. I saw him fall and I just kept firing. You protected my son. Mateo takes her hands, which are still shaking. You did what needed to be done. I'm not like you. I can't just. She gestures at the bodies. How do you live with it? All this violence. You learn to carry it, to compartmentalize, to remember that some things are worth the darkness you have to walk through to protect them. Mateo pulls her closer. But you don't have to become like me, Aria. What you did today doesn't make you a killer. It makes you a guardian. There's a difference. Is there? Aria looks at the blood on her hands, literal blood this time, not metaphorical. Because right now, it feels like I crossed a line I can never come back from. You crossed a line to save a child you love. That's not the same as crossing it for power or money or revenge. Mateo's voice is gentle, more gentle than she's ever heard it. You're not lost, Aria. You're still you. Still the woman who plays piano like she's touching heaven. Still the person who gave my son his voice back. One act of violence in defense of innocent life doesn't change who you are at your core. Aria wants to believe him. But when she closes her eyes, she sees the man falling, the blood spreading, the light leaving his eyes. She did that. With her own hands, she ended a life. I need to see Luca, she says, pulling away from Mateo's embrace. I need to make sure he's really okay. Of course. Mateo releases her, though reluctance shadows his expression. But Aria, what you did today, protecting my son when I couldn't get to him in time, I will never forget that. You have my loyalty now. For life. Whatever you need, whatever you want, it's yours. Understand? Aria nods numbly. She doesn't want his loyalty, or his gratitude, or his promises. She just wants to hold Luca and pretend that the last hour didn't happen. That she didn't discover she's capable of pulling a trigger when someone she loves is threatened. The next few hours pass in a blur. Medical personnel arrive to treat the wounded guards. Cleaning crews work with disturbing efficiency to remove evidence of the battle. Aria sits with Luca in his room, holding him while he processes what happened, answering his questions as honestly as she can without traumatizing him further. The bad men wanted to hurt us, Luca says, his voice small. But you stopped them. Yes. Did you? Did you hurt them? Aria thinks about lying. Decides Luca deserves truth. Yes. I had to. To keep you safe. Like Papa does. When he protects us. Yes. Like your Papa. Luca is quiet for a long time. Then he says, Mama would have been proud of you. She always said the strongest people are the ones who protect the weak. The observation breaks something in Aria's chest. Tears she's been holding back finally spill over, and she cries silently while Luca pats her arm with the awkward comfort of a child trying to console an adult. Eventually, exhaustion claims them both. Aria falls asleep in a chair beside Luca's bed, her hand holding his, unable to let him go even in sleep. She wakes to find Matteo standing in the doorway watching them. The first light of dawn is breaking through the windows, painting everything in shades of gold and shadow. "How long have you been there?" Aria asks quietly, careful not to wake Luca. "An hour, maybe more." Matteo enters the room, his movements careful. "I needed to see that you were both safe, that this was real, that we survived." "The Castellanos? Finished. Their family is scattered, their leadership dead, their operations absorbed into mine." Matteo's voice carries no triumph, just tired finality. "It's over. The threat is gone. Until the next one. Yes, there's always a next one." Matteo sits on the edge of Luca's bed, his hand gentle on his son's sleeping head. "But today we won. Today, my son is safe because a woman I hired 3 weeks ago turned out to be brave enough to pull a trigger when everything she believed about herself said she couldn't." "I'm not brave," Aria protests. "I was terrified. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it." Matteo's eyes meet hers across Luca's sleeping form. "You could have frozen, could have hidden, could have hoped they wouldn't find you. Instead, you stood between them and my son with a weapon you didn't know how to use, and bought me the time I needed to reach you. That's the definition of courage." Aria doesn't feel courageous. She feels exhausted and traumatized and fundamentally changed. The woman who played piano in that concert hall 4 weeks ago doesn't exist anymore. That Aria was innocent, naive, protected from the harsh realities of a world where violence is currency and protection requires blood. This Aria understands that love sometimes demands terrible prices, that keeping someone safe might mean becoming dangerous yourself, that the line between hero and killer is thinner than she ever imagined. "What happens now?" she asks. "Now we heal. We recover. We go back to piano lessons and family dinners and pretending the darkness doesn't exist." Matteo stands, offering his hand. "Come on. You need real sleep. In a real bed. Not a chair." Aria takes his hand, let him pull her to her feet. They leave Luca sleeping peacefully, guards stationed outside his door, and walk through the house that's been scrubbed clean of violence. No evidence remains of the battle, except for the reinforced doors and the weary expressions of surviving guards. Matteo leads her to a different bedroom than the one she used before. This one is larger, more personal, with photos on the nightstand that make Aria's breath catch. A woman with Luca's eyes smiles from a silver frame, holding a baby and looking at the camera with the kind of joy that transcends photography. Matteo's wife, Luca's mother, the ghost that haunts this house. "This was our room," Matteo says, following her gaze. "Mine and Elena's. After she died, I couldn't sleep here anymore. Too many memories. Too much absence." He moves to the bed, pulling back covers that smell fresh and clean. "But I think maybe it's time to let some light back in. To remember her without the pain overwhelming everything else." "Matteo, I can't sleep in your wife's room." It's not her room anymore. She's gone. Has been for 2 years. His voice cracks slightly. "And you're here. You're real. You saved our son. And I need you close tonight. Need to know you're safe. Please." It's the please that undoes her. Aria nods, too tired to argue, too emotionally wrung out to process the implications of sleeping in the bedroom of the woman she's somehow replacing. She collapses into the bed, and within seconds, exhaustion drags her under. The last thing she's aware of is Matteo sitting in the chair by the window, watching over her with the protective intensity of a man who's lost too much to risk losing anything else. When Aria wakes, afternoon sunlight is streaming through the windows. She's disoriented for a moment, then memory crashes back. The attack, the shooting, the blood on her hands. She sits up quickly, searching for Matteo. He's still in the chair, though he's clearly slept at some point, his hair disheveled and his shirt wrinkled. "You stayed," Aria says. "I told you. I needed to know you were safe." Matteo straightens, rolling his shoulders to work out the stiffness from sleeping in a chair. "Luca's been asking for you. He's downstairs with Mrs. Rossi having lunch. I told him you needed rest." "What time is it?" "Almost 2. You slept for 12 hours. Aria's stomach growls, reminding her she hasn't eaten since yesterday's breakfast. "I should go see him." "In a minute." Matteo stands, moving to sit on the edge of the bed. First, we need to talk about what comes next. What do you mean? You've seen the reality of my world now. Not the surface, the dinners and the music and the beautiful house, but the violence underneath, the constant threat, the darkness I live in to keep my family safe. Mateo's expression is serious, almost pained. I won't force you to stay in that darkness. If you want to leave, I'll understand. I'll make sure you're set up somewhere safe. Give you enough money to start over. Protect you from any blowback from yesterday's battle. But I won't trap you here if being close to me and Luca means living in fear. Aria considers his offer. Freedom. Safety. A return to normalcy. Or as close to it as possible after what she's experienced. Then she thinks about Luca's face lighting up when he plays a new melody. About the butterfly song he composed last week. About the way he hugs her every morning and says, "I love you, Aria," with the uncomplicated honesty of childhood. She thinks about Mateo reading bedtime stories in different voices that make Luca laugh. About the way he looks at his son like he's witnessing a miracle every single day. About the tears on his face when Luca first spoke. This family is broken and dangerous and swimming in darkness, but they're also healing and loving and trying their best to build something beautiful from the wreckage of their grief. And Aria realizes she doesn't want to leave, despite everything. Despite the violence and the fear and the blood on her hands. She wants to stay and help them heal. Wants to be part of their imperfect, dangerous, loving family. I'm not going anywhere, she says firmly. Luca needs me. And I think I need him too. Need both of you. I haven't had family in so long that I forgot what it felt like. But this, being here, matching to someone, it feels like coming home. Mateo's expression transforms. Relief and something deeper flood across his features. You're sure? Because once you commit to this, to us, there's no halfway. You're part of the family, part of my protection, part of everything. I'm sure. He reaches out, his hand cupping her face with heartbreaking gentleness. You're extraordinary, Aria Chen. You know that. You stumble into my life by accident, save my son with music, and now you're choosing to stay despite knowing exactly how dangerous it is. That's either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Maybe both, Aria admits, leaning into his touch. Mateo leans forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she doesn't, his lips brush against hers in a kiss that's gentle and searching, and full of all the emotion he keeps locked behind his controlled exterior. Aria kisses him back, her hands finding his shoulders, anchoring herself to this moment. This choice, this dangerous, beautiful man who leads a life of violence but loves his son with every atom of his being. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard, Mateo rests his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you, he whispers. I'm too dark, too broken, too stained by the things I've done. Maybe, Aria says, but Luca deserves a father who's trying to be better. And you deserve someone who sees the man you are, not just the monster you have to be sometimes. I love you, Mateo says, and the words sound like they're being torn from somewhere deep inside. I know it's too fast. I know it's insane. But watching you protect my son yesterday, seeing you willing to die for him, I fell so completely in love with you that I can't remember what life felt like before you crashed into it. Aria should be terrified of that confession. Should be running from the intensity of what he's offering. But instead, she smiles. I love you too, she says, and realizes it's true. She loves this complicated, dangerous, devoted man who would burn the world down for his son. I think I have since that first night when you held Luca and cried because he said Papa. They kiss again, deeper this time, full of promise and hope and the understanding that they've both chosen something difficult and beautiful and absolutely right. A knock at the door interrupts them. Bruno's voice carries through. Boss? Luca's getting impatient. He wants to show Aria his new song. Mateo laughs, the sound lighter than Aria's ever heard from him. Tell him we'll be down in 5 minutes. Will do. After Bruno's footsteps fade, Mateo stands and offers Aria his hand. Ready to face the family? Aria takes his hand, lets him pull her to her feet. Ready. They walk downstairs together. And when Lucas sees them, his face explodes with joy. Aria! Papa! Come listen! I wrote a song about being brave. For the next hour, Aria sits at the piano with Luca, helping him play his new composition. It's simple but beautiful, full of the kind of hope that only children possess. Matteo watches from his usual position by the window, and when Aria catches his eye, she sees contentment on his face. This is their new normal. Music and family, and love built on a foundation of violence and protection. It's not perfect. It's not even particularly safe. But it's theirs. That evening, after Luca is asleep, Aria and Matteo sit together in the music room. She plays while he works, and the comfortable silence between them feels like coming home. I've been thinking, Matteo says during a pause in her practice, about making some changes to the organization, reducing certain operations, getting out of the parts of the business that put targets on our backs. Because of yesterday? Because I have more to lose now. You and Luca are everything. The empire, the power, the money, none of it matters if I can't keep you safe. Matteo sets down his papers. I'm going to start transitioning to more legitimate businesses. It'll take years, maybe a decade. But eventually, I want Luca to inherit something he can be proud of. Not an empire built on violence. Aria's chest tightens with emotion. That's a big change. You're a big reason. You make me want to be better. Not just for Luca, but for you. For us. He moves to sit beside her on the piano bench. I'll never be innocent. The things I've done can't be undone. But maybe I can build something good from here forward. I think, Aria says carefully, that being better is a journey, not a destination. And the fact that you want to try is what matters. They sit in comfortable silence, Aria's head on Matteo's shoulder, his arm around her waist. Outside, guards patrol the property with weapons ready. Security cameras track every shadow. The fortress mentality of Matteo's life continues unabated. But inside this room, there's music and love and hope. A broken family finding ways to heal. A future being built from the wreckage of the past. 6 months later, Luca performs his first piano recital in the music room. The audience is small, just Matteo, Aria, a few trusted guards, and Mrs. Rossi, who cries through the entire performance. Luca plays the butterfly song he composed that terrible day, but also new pieces, including one he titled Aria's Song, which makes her cry just hearing the name. After the recital, during the small celebration, Matteo pulls Aria aside. In his hand is a small velvet box. I know we haven't been together long by traditional standards, he says. And I know my life is complicated and dangerous, and not what most people would choose. But you're my family now. You and Luca. And I want to make it official. He opens the box, revealing a ring that's simple and beautiful, a single diamond on a platinum band. Marry me, Aria. Help me raise my son. Build a life with me. Be the light that keeps me from drowning in darkness. Aria looks at the ring, then at Matteo's face, then through the doorway where Luca is showing off his recital certificate to Bruno. This life isn't safe. It isn't simple. There will be more threats, more violence, more nights where she lies awake wondering if today is the day something terrible happens. But there will also be music and laughter and love. There will be watching Luca grow into the remarkable person he's meant to be. There will be building something beautiful with a man who's trying so hard to be better than his worst choices. Yes, Aria says, and Matteo's smile could power the sun. Yes, I'll marry you. He slides the ring onto her finger, then kisses her with a kind of joy that transcends words. Luca notices from across the room and comes running, throwing himself into their embrace with delighted shouts of, "Are you getting married? Are you really going to be my mama?" "If you want me to be," Aria says, kneeling to his level. "I want it more than anything," Luca says seriously. "Except maybe a puppy. Can we get a puppy?" Matteo laughs, pulling them both into a hug. "We'll discuss the puppy. For now, let's just celebrate the fact that our family is complete." And standing there, holding both of them, Aria realizes that complete is exactly how she feels. Not despite the darkness of Matteo's world, but because of how fiercely they protect each other within it. She came into his life by accident, a homeless pianist looking for a place to practice. She stayed because a mute boy needed someone to hear the music locked inside him. And she'll remain because this broken, dangerous, loving family has become her home in a way that transcends logic or safety or common sense. Sometimes the most beautiful things grow in the darkest places. Sometimes strength comes from the most unexpected people. Sometimes love appears when you've given up hope of finding it. And sometimes a single night of music can change everything. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love the story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.